Welcome back to the Foundation series. Over the last several videos, we've walked the entire tree of life from top to bottom, Keter to Malkhut, the crown to the kingdom. You now have the full map of the 10 Sefirot, how the infinite contracts, emanates, and flows into structure. But here's what most people miss. The tree of life doesn't exist once. It exists 4 times, 4 complete trees, nested inside each other like worlds within worlds. And each one represents a different level of reality, a different density, a different proximity to the source. These are the 4 worlds: Atzilut, Beriah, Yetzirah, Assiyah. And understanding them changes everything about how you read the Zohar, how you understand the Sefirot, and how you understand your own place in creation. Before we go through each one, let me give you the framework. The idea is this: creation didn't happen all at once. It descended layer by layer. The infinite didn't jump from pure godliness straight into physical matter. It stepped down through stages. Each stage is a complete world with its own tree of life, its own 10 Sefirot, its own laws, its own beings, and each world is less transparent to the divine light than the one above it. Think of it like light passing through glass. The first pane is perfectly clear. The light comes through almost unchanged. The second pane is slightly tinted. The third is frosted. The fourth is thick and opaque. You can still feel the warmth of the light, but you cannot see the source anymore. That's not because the light diminished. The light is the same. The vessel changed. The density changed. And that's exactly what happens across the 4 worlds. The Zohar doesn't use the term 4 worlds as a fixed label the way later Kabbalists do. That systemization comes primarily from the Tikkunei Zohar and is fully developed by Rabbi Moshe Cordevo and the Arizal. But the structure is embedded throughout the Zohar. Every time the Zohar speaks of levels within levels, worlds nested in worlds, garments over garments, it's pointing to this architecture. The first and highest world is Atzilut. Atzilut means emanation. It comes from the word etzel, meaning near or beside. Atzilut is the world that is still near to God, so near that there is effectively no separation. In Atzilut, the Sefirot exists in their purest form. There is no concealment, no distortion, no ego. The light and the vessel are one. This is the world of pure divinity. The Zohar associates Atzilut with the highest level of the soul, the Neshamah of the Neshamah, and with the name of God as it exists before manifestation. In Atzilut, Keter is Keter in its absolute sense. Hokmah is total. Binah is perfect. There is no fragmentation, no breaking, no fallen sparks. Everything is as it should be. You cannot visit Atzilut with the rational mind. You cannot think your way there. Atzilut is accessed, if it is accessed at all, through what the Kabbalists call Bittul, Self-Nullification, the complete dissolution of the separate self. Prophets touch Atzilut in their highest moments. Moses operated from Atzilut when he stood at Sinai. But even for Moses, Atzilut was not a permanent address. It is the world closest to Ein Sof, and it burns away everything that is not God. Below Atzilut is Beriah. Beriah means creation, and what was created here, the Zohar says, the throne, the Kisei HaKavod, the throne of glory. Beriah is where the first act of creation occurs. Not physical creation, but intellectual creation. This is the world of the higher mind, the world where the pure light of Atzilut is first received by a consciousness that is distinct from God. In Atzilut, there is no other. In Beriah, the other begins. Not yet a body, not yet a world, but a mind, an awareness, the first capacity to look back at the source and I say, I perceive you. This is why Beriah is associated with the soul level of Neshamah, the higher intellectual soul that knows God not through feeling or action, but through contemplation. The Zohar associates Beriah with the angelic realm of the Seraphim, the burning ones who stand before the throne and call out Kadosh, 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 which means holy, holy, holy. They perceive the divine directly, but they are not the divine. They are the first witnesses, and their world, Beriah, is the first world where witnessing is possible. Because you need distance to see, you need separation to perceive, and Beriah is where that first sacred separation exists. If Atzilut is the fire itself, Beriah is the first awareness of the fire. Below Beriah is Yetzirah. Yetzirah means formation, and this is where things take shape. Not physical shape, emotional shape, energetic shape. Yetzirah is the world of feeling, of pattern, of the inner architecture that exists beneath the surface of everything you see. Where Beriah is the world of the mind, Yetzirah is the world of the heart. The Zohar places the 6 Sefirot of Zeir Anpin, from Hesed through Yesod, primarily in Yetzirah. This is where the emotional qualities of the divine operate: love, judgment, beauty, endurance, humility, transmission. These are the living forces of Yetzirah. And they don't just operate in God, they operate in you. Every emotional movement you experience is Yetzirah expressing itself through your soul. The soul level associated with Yetzirah is Ruach, spirit. Ruach is the part of you that feels, that responds, that is moved. When you are stirred by a piece of music, when you feel the rightness of a decision before you can explain it, when something in you rises to meet a challenge or recoils from a lie, that's Ruach. That's Yetzirah operating through you. The Zohar associates Yetzirah with the angelic realm of the Chayot, which means the living creatures that Ezekiel saw in his vision: the lion, the ox, the eagle, the human face. These are not random images. They are the archetypes of the four emotional forces, which are mercy, strength, transcendence, and integration, given form. Yetzirah is the world where the formless begins to take shape, where energy becomes pattern, where intention becomes blueprint. And finally, we have Assiyah. Assiyah means action, making, doing. This is the world you're sitting in right now, the world of physical matter, of bodies and buildings and breath and gravity. Assiyah is where everything that was conceived in Atzilut, created in Beriah, and formed in Yetzirah, finally becomes real, tangible, solid, and the soul level associated with Assiyah is Nefesh, the vital soul, the most basic animating force, the part of you that breathes, that hungers, that senses. Nefesh doesn't contemplate God. It eats, it sleeps, it survives. And the Zohar does not dismiss Nefesh, because without Nefesh, the higher soul levels have no vehicle. Without Assiyah, the other three worlds have no expression. Action is where truth is tested. You can contemplate holiness in Beriah. You can feel holiness in Yetzirah. But until you act on it in Assiyah, until you do something in this physical world, it remains potential, unrealized, a dream that never woke up. This is why the Zohar places such weight on Mitzvot, on commanded actions performed with the body in the physical world, not because God needs your physical movements, but because Assiyah is where the repair happens. The sparks that fell are here, in matter, in the dense, opaque world of physical existence. And only physical action, performed with spiritual intention, can lift them. Thought alone will not do it. Feeling alone won't do it. You have to act. And that's the unique dignity of Assiyah. The lowest world holds the key that the highest world needs. Now, step back and see the whole architecture. 4 worlds, each one a complete tree of life with 10 Sefirot. That's 40 Sefirot in total. And they are not stacked like floors in a building with walls between them. They interpenetrate. The Malkhut of Atzilut becomes the Keter of Beriah. The Malkhut of Beriah becomes the Keter of Yetzirah. The Malkhut of Yetzirah becomes the Keter of Assiyah. Each world's lowest point is the next world's highest point. They are linked. They flow into each other like a chain of light descending. The Zohar calls this the Seder Hishtalshelut, the order of sequential unfolding. And this means something profound. It means the highest point of your physical life, the most elevated moment you experience in this world of Assiyah, is touching the lowest point of Yetzirah. And the highest emotional experience you can have in Yetzirah is touching the floor of Beriah, and so on, all the way up. The worlds are not separate realities. They are one reality at different densities, and you are moving through all of them all the time, whether you know it or not. When you sit in meditation and your mind goes quiet and something beyond thought touches you, you are ascending from Assiyah through Yetzirah into Beriah. When you pray with such intensity that the separate self dissolves, you are touching Atzilut. And when you come back down, when you open your eyes and re-enter the world of action, you are bringing whatever you touch back with you. That descent is not a fall, it is a delivery. You are bringing light from the upper worlds into Assiyah. And that is the entire purpose of having a body. So here's the map as it stands now. Ein Sof, the infinite. Zimzum, the withdrawal. 10 Sefirot, the divine structure. 3 pillars, the supernal triad, Zeir Anpin, Malkhut, and the Shekinah. And now, the 4 worlds through which all of this unfolds at every level of reality. You now have the foundational architecture of the Zohar, not the details. The details are infinite, but the bones, the skeleton, the structure that holds everything else. In the next video, we'll begin exploring how these structures interact, the Partzuvim, the divine faces, how the Sefirot aren't just abstract forces but living personalities that relate to each other. Father, mother, son, daughter. That's where the Zohar comes fully alive. I will see you there. Shalom.